short for Network Mapper, is free open-source software released under the GPL license, created by Gordon Lyon. Fodor, a network security expert and open-source programmer, is an industry-standard tool for mapping networks, identifying live hosts, and discovering running services. Scripting engine can further extend its functionality, from fingerprinting services to exploiting vulnerabilities. A scan usually goes through the steps shown in the figure below, although many are optional and depend on the command line arguments you provide. Learning objectives. When we want to target a network, we want to find an efficient tool to help us handle repetitive tasks and answer the following questions. 1. Which systems are up? 2. What services are running on these systems? The first question about finding live computers is answered in this room. This room is the first in a series of 4 rooms. The second question about discovering running services is answered in the next rooms, which focus on port scanning. This room explains the steps takes to discover online systems before port scanning. This stage is crucial because attempting to port scan offline systems will only waste time and generate unnecessary network noise. We present the different approaches that uses to discover live hosts. In particular, we cover 1. Scan. This scan uses requests to discover live hosts. 2. ICMP scan. This scan uses ICMP requests to identify live hosts. 3. Ping scan. This scan sends packets to ports and ports to determine live hosts. We also introduce 2 scanners, ARP scan and mass scan, and explain how they overlap with part of host discovery. Learning prerequisites. 1. Web application basics. 2. Networking essentials. 3. Networking secure protocols. In the next task, let's dig deeper and understand some important concepts before discovering live hosts. Some of these questions will require the use of a static site to answer the task questions, while others require the use of the attack box. Let's review a couple of terms before we move on to the main tasks. A network segment is a group of computers connected using a shared medium. For instance, the medium can be the Ethernet switch or Wi-Fi access point. In an IP network, a subnetwork is usually the equivalent of one or more network segments connected together and configured to use the same router. The network segment refers to a physical connection, while a subnetwork refers to a logical connection. In the following network diagram, we have 4 network segments or subnetworks. Generally speaking, your system would be connected to one of these network segments, subnetworks. A subnetwork, or simply a subnet, has its own IP address range and is connected to a more extensive network via a router. There might be enforcing security policies depending on each network. The figure above shows 2 types of subnets. 1. Subnets with 16, which means that the subnet mask can be written as 255.255.0.0. This subnet can accommodate around 65,000 hosts. 2. Subnets with 24, which indicates that the submask can be expressed as 255.255.225.550. This subnet around 250 hosts. You might want to refer to Task 2 in the Intro to LAN room if you need to learn more about subnetting. As part of active reconnaissance, we want to discover more information about a group of hosts or about a subnet. If you are on the same subnet, you would expect your scanner to use Address Resolution Protocol queries to discover live hosts. And query aims to obtain the hardware address, MAC address, so that communication at the link layer becomes possible. However, we can infer that the host is online. We revisit link layer in Task 4. If you are in Network A, you can use only to discover the devices within that subnet 10.1.100.0.0244. Suppose you are connected to a subnet different from the subnet of the target systems. In that case, all packets generated your scanner will be routed via the default gateway, router, to reach systems on another subnet. However, queries won't be routed and therefore cannot cross the subnet router. Is a link layer protocol and packets are bound to their subnet. Click on the eView Site button to start the network simulator. We will use this simulator to answer the questions in tasks 2, 4, and 5. From computer 1. 2. To computer 1 to indicate it is broadcast. 3. Packet type, ARP request. 4. Computer 6. Because we are asking for computer 6 MAC address using ARP request. 1. From computer 4. 2. To computer 4 to indicate it is broadcast. 3. Packet type, ARP request. 4. Computer 6. Because we are asking for computer 6 MAC address using ARP request. Your streak has increased. You're closer to your next badge of we mentioned the different techniques we can use for scanning in Task 1. Before we explain each in detail and test it against a live target, we need to specify the targets we want to scan. Generally speaking, you can provide a list, a range, or a subnet. Examples of target specification are 1. List. Machine IP scanmap.org example.com will scan 3 IP addresses. 2. 10.1.2.1.20 will scan 6 IP addresses. 10.1.1.2.15, 10.1.2.1.2.16, and 10.1.1.2.t. 3. Subnet. Machine IP30 will scan 4 IP addresses. You can also provide a file as input for your list of targets, Nmap list of hosts.txt. If you want to check the list of hosts that will scan, you can use Nmap to sell targets. This option gives you a detailed list of hosts that will scan without actually scanning them. We'll attempt reverse DNS resolution on all targets to obtain their names. Names might reveal various information to the pentester. If you don't want to the DNS server, you can add N. Launch the attack box using the Start Attack Box button below. Once it opens in split view, open the terminal and use Nmap to answer the following. Set up your virtual environment. To successfully complete this room, you'll need to set up your virtual environment. This involves starting the attack box, ensuring you're equipped with the necessary tools and access to tackle the challenges ahead. Attacker machine. Status. Off. What is the first IP address Nmap would scan if you provided 10.0.1.13.29 as your target? How many IP addresses will Nmap scan if you provide the following range 10.0.255, 101, Let's revisit the IP layers shown in the following figure. We will leverage the protocols to discover the live hosts. Starting from bottom to top, we can use 1. From link layer, 2. ICMP from the network layer, 3. From the transport layer, 4. From the transport layer. Before we discuss how each scanner can be used in detail, we will briefly review these 4 protocols. Has one purpose: sending a frame to the broadcast address on the network segment and asking the computer with a specific IP address to respond by providing its MAC hardware address. ICMP, many types, opens in new tab. ICMP ping uses type 8 echo and type 0 echo replay. If you want to ping a system on the same subnet, and query should precede the ICMP echo. Although in our transport layer protocols, for network scanning, a scanner can send a specially crafted packet to common or ports to check whether the target responds. This method is efficient, especially when ICMP echo is blocked. If you have closed the network simulator, click on the eView Site button in Task 2 to display it again. Send a packet with the following: 1. From computer 1. 2. To computer 3. 3. Packet type, a ping request. What type of packet did computer 1 send? Nmap Live Discovery. Learn how to use Nmap to discover live hosts using ARP scan. How would you know which hosts are up and running? It is essential to avoid wasting our time port scanning an offline host or an IP address not in use. There are various ways to discover online hosts. When no host discovery options are provided, follows the following approaches to discover live hosts. 1. When a privileged user tries to scan targets on a local network, Ethernet, users requests. A privileged user is root or a user who belongs to sudoers and can run sudo. 2. When a privileged user tries to scan targets outside the local network, Nmap uses ICMP echo requests TCP AK acknowledge to port 80 TCP CySA synchronize to port 4443 and ICMP timestamp request. 3. When an unprivileged user tries to scan targets outside the local network, Nmap resorts to a TCP three-way handshake by sending SYN packets to ports 80 and 443. Map, by default, uses a ping scan to find live hosts, then proceeds to scan live hosts only. If you want to use Nmap to discover online hosts without port scanning the live systems, you can issue Nmap send targets. Let's dig deeper to gain a solid understanding of the different techniques used. ARP scan is possible only if you are on the same subnet as the target systems. On an Ethernet 023 and Wi-Fi 802.11, you need to know the MAC address of any system before you can communicate with it. The MAC address is required for the link layer header. It contains the source and destination MAC addresses, among other fields. To get the MAC address, the OS sends an ARP query. A host that replies to ARP queries is up. The ARP query only works if the target is on the same subnet as you, that is, on the same Ethernet Wi-Fi network. You should expect to see many ARP queries generated during a scan of a local network. If you want only to perform an ARP scan without port scanning, you can use Nmap PR send targets, where PR indicates that you only want an ARP scan. The following example shows Nmap using ARP for host discovery without any port scanning. We run Nmap PR send machine IP24 to discover all the live systems on the same subnet as our target machine. Pentester terminal. Pentester at THM sudo nmap. In this case, the attack box had the IP address 10.0.210.6 and used ARP requests to discover live hosts on the same subnet. The ARP scan works, as shown in the figure below. Map sends ARP requests to all target computers, and those that are online should reply with an ARP reply. If we look at packets generated with tools such as TCP dump or Wireshark, we will see network traffic similar to the figure below. In the figure below, Wireshark displays the source and destination MAC addresses, the protocol, and the query for each ARP request. The source address is the MAC address of our attack box, while the destination is the broadcast address, as we don't know the MAC address of the target. However, we can see the target's IP address in the info column. In the figure, we can see that we are requesting the MAC addresses of all the IP addresses on the subnet, starting with 10.10.2.101. The host with the IP address we are asking about will send and reply with its MAC address, and that's how we will know that it is online. Talking about scans, we should mention a scanner built around queries, ARP scan. It provides many options to customize your scan. Visit Wiki. Opens in new tab for detailed information. One popular choice is ARP scan, localnet or simply ARP scan L. This command will send queries to all valid IP addresses on your local networks. Moreover, if your system has more than one interface and you are interested in discovering the live hosts on one of them, you can specify the interface using I. For instance, sudo ARP scan ISC² will send queries for all valid IP addresses on the S0 interface. Note that ARP scan is not installed on the attack box. However, it can be installed using apt install ARP scan. In the example below, we scanned the subnet of the attack box using ARP scan attack box IP24. Since we ran this scan at a time frame close to the previous one Nmap PR SN attack box IP24, we obtained the same three live targets. Pentester terminal. Pentester THM ARP scan 10.0. Similarly, the command ARP scan will generate many queries that we can see using TCP dump, Wireshark, or a similar tool. We can notice that the packet capture for ARP scan and Nmap PR SYN yield similar traffic patterns. Below, the Wireshark output. If you have closed the network simulator, click the eVisit Site button in Task 2 to reopen it. We will be sending broadcast ARP request packets with the following options. 1. From computer 1. 2. To computer 1 to indicate it is broadcast. 3. Packet type ARP request. 4. Try all 8 devices other than computer on the network, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4, computer 6, switch 1, switch 2, and router. How many devices can you discover using ARP requests? Nmap Live Host. We can ping every IP address on a target network and see who would respond to our ping. ICMP type 8 echo, requests with a ping reply. ICMP type 0. Simple, isn't it? Although this would be the most straightforward approach, it is not always reliable. Many firewalls block ICMP echo. New versions of MS Windows are configured with a host firewall that blocks ICMP echo requests by default. Remember that an ARP query precedes an ICMP request if your target is on the same subnet. To use ICMP echo request to discover live hosts, add the option PE. Remember to add SYN if you don't want to follow that with a port scan. As shown in the following figure, an ICMP echo scan sends an ICMP echo request and expects the target to reply with an ICMP echo reply if it is online. In the example below, we scanned the target subnet using Nmap PE SN Machine IP24. This scan will send ICMP echo packets to every IP address on the subnet. Again, we expect live host to reply. It is wise to keep in mind that many firewalls block ICMP. The output below shows the result of scanning the virtual machine's Class C subnet using sudo nmap PE SN Machine IP24. The scan output shows that 8 hosts are up, along with their MAC addresses. Generally, we don't expect to learn the MAC addresses of targets unless they are on the same subnet as our system. The output above indicates that didn't need to send ICMP packets, as it confirmed that these hosts are up based on the ARP responses it received. We will repeat the scan above, however, this time we will scan from a system on a different subnet. The results are similar, but without the MAC addresses. Pentest, terminal. Pentester at track, sudo nmap. If you look at the network packets using a tool like Wireshark, you will see something similar to the image below. You can see that we have one source IP address on a different subnet than the destination subnet, sending ICMP echo requests to all IP addresses in the target subnet to see which will reply. Because ICMP echo requests tend to be blocked, you might also consider ICMP timestamp or ICMP address mask requests to tell if a system is online. Uses a timestamp request, ICMP type 13, and checks whether it will get a timestamp reply, ICMP type 14. Adding the PP option tells Nmap to use ICMP timestamp requests. As shown in the figure below, you expect live hosts to reply. In the following example, we run nmap pp sends nmap IP24 to discover the online computers on the target machine subnet. Pentester terminal. Pentester tryhackme sudo nmap ppin 1010 68 220 4. Starting nmap 7.2 HTTP URL. Similar to the previous ICMP scan, this scan will send many ICMP timestamp requests to every valid IP address in the target subnet. In the Wireshark screenshot below, you can see one source IP address sending ICMP packets to every possible IP address to discover online hosts. Similarly, uses address queries, ICMP 17, and checks whether it gets an address mask reply, ICMP type 18. This scan can be enabled with the option PM. As shown in the figure below, live hosts are expected to reply to ICMP address mask requests. In an attempt to discover live hosts using ICMP address mask queries, we run the command nmap PM SN Machine I24. Although earlier scans showed at least 8 hosts are up, this scan returned none. The reason is that the target system or a firewall on the route is blocking this type of ICMP packet. Therefore, it is essential to learn multiple approaches to achieve the same result. If one packet type is blocked, we can always choose another to discover the target network and services. Pentest terminal. Pentester at tryhackme sudo. Although we didn't receive any reply and couldn't determine which hosts were online, it is essential to note that this scan sent ICMP address mask requests to every valid IP address and waited for a reply. Each ICMP request was sent twice, as shown in the screenshot below. What is the option required to tell Nmap to use ICMP timestamp to discover live hosts? What is the option required to tell Nmap to use ICMP address mask to discover live hosts? What is the option required to tell Nmap to use ICMP echo to discover live hosts? We can send a packet with the SYN, synchronize, flag set to a port 80 by default, and wait for a response. An open port should reply with a SYN ACK, acknowledge. A closed port would result in an RST, reset. In this case, we only check whether we receive a response to infer whether the host is up. The specific state of the port is not significant here. The figure below is a reminder of how a three-way handshake usually works. If you want to use SYN ping, you can do so via the option PS followed by the port number, range, list, or a combination of them. For example, PS21 will target port 21, while PS21-25 will target ports 22.1, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Finally, PS80,443,000, 8AE will target the three ports 80, 443, and 8L80. Privileged users, root and sudoers, can send TCP SYN packets and don't need to complete the TCP three-way handshake, even if the port is open, as shown in the figure below. Unprivileged users have no choice but to complete the three-way handshake if the port is open. We will run Nmap PS send machine IP24 to scan the target VM subnet. As shown in the output below, we discovered 5 hosts. Pentest terminal. Pentester at tryhat sudo nmap PS SN10 6. Let's take a closer look at what happened behind the scenes by looking at the network traffic on Wireshark in the figure below. Technically speaking, since we didn't specify any TCP ports to use in the TCP ping scan, used the default TCP port 80. Any service listening on port 80 is expected to reply, indirectly indicating that the host is online. CPX ping. As you have guessed, this sends a packet with an AKK flag set. You must run as a privileged user to accomplish this. If you try it as an unprivileged user, we'll attempt a three-way handshake. By default, port 80 is used. The syntax is similar to TCP SYN ping. PA should be followed by a port number range, a list, or a combination of them. For example, consider PA21, PA2125, and P880,443,000, 880. If no port is specified, port 80 will be used. The following figure shows that any TCP packet with the AKK flag set should receive a TCP packet with the RST flag set. The target responds with the RST flag set because the TCP packet with the AK flag is not part of any ongoing connection. The expected response The target responds with the RST flag set because the TCP packet with the AK flag is not part of any ongoing connection. The expected response is used to detect if the target host is up. In this example, we run sudo nmap pa sn machine IP24 to discover the online hosts on the target subnet. If we peek at the network traffic as shown in the figure below, we will discover many packets with the AK flag set and sent to port 80 of the target systems. Sends each packet twice. The systems that don't respond are offline or inaccessible. UDP ping. Finally, we can use UDP to discover if the host is online. Contrary to TCP SYN ping, sending a UDP packet to an open port is not expected to lead to any reply. However, if we send a UDP packet to a closed UDP port, we expect to get an ICMP port unreachable packet. This indicates that the target system is up and available. In the following figure, we see a UDP packet sent to an open UDP port and not triggering any response. However, sending a UDP packet to any closed UDP port can trigger a response indirectly indicating that the target is online. The syntax to specify the ports is similar to that of TCP SYN ping and TCP ACK ping, uses PU for ping. In the following example, we run a scan and discover 5 live hosts. Pentest terminal. Pentester at THM sudo nmap pu. Let's inspect the UDP packets generated. In the following Wireshark screenshot, we notice sending UDP packets to UDP ports that are most likely closed. The image below shows that uses an uncommon UDP port to trigger an ICMP destination unreachable, port unreachable, error. Mascan. On a side note, Mascan uses a similar approach to discover the available systems. However, to complete its network scan quickly, Mascan is quite aggressive in the rate at which it generates packets. The syntax is quite similar. P can be followed by a port number, list, or range. Consider the following examples. 1. Mascan ein IP. Mascan is not installed on the attack box. However, it can be installed using apt install Mascan. Which TCP ping scan does not require a privileged account? Which TCP ping scan requires a privileged account? What option do you need to add to Nmap to run a TCP CySA? Nmap Live Host This default behavior is to use reverse online hosts. Because the host names can reveal a lot, this can be a helpful step. However, if you don't want to send such queries, you use N to skip this step. By default, Nmap will look up online hosts. However, you can use the option R to query the DNS server even for offline hosts. If you want to use specific DNS server, you can add the DIN server's DNS server option. Answer the questions below. We want Nmap to issue a reverse DNS lookup for all the possible hosts on a subnet, hoping to get some insights from the names. What option we add?